Another Dooley Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI. Of course, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios, and we appreciate everybody for being on or watching, clicking on. We've got Cole Cubelic's going to be on. We were scheduled to have him a couple weeks ago, but he had to deal with a death in the Auburn family, and I don't even want to bring that up to him. We're going to talk football with him. So we'll have him on today. Monday, Coach Spurrier can't be here again. He's busy. He's probably getting another award. You know, he's probably getting the North Dakota Hall of Fame award or something. Which, by the way, my wife went into the Bob Dooley Hall of Fame this weekend. I'm still for Hall of Fames, and I think I'm okay with that now. But at any rate, so Robbie will be in Monday. And we haven't had Robbie on in a long time. Robbie's been very busy, too. Sometimes he's been having to do a lot of radio with me because of Jeff being gone for baseball, which is again this week, and will be again next week. And then Friday, Coach Spurrier will be here, hopefully. Look at this. Watch me make this water cup. Look. Ooh. It's magic. You see that? That was magic. I need it, too. All right, so we got a great show for you. Cole Cubelic will join us. We got a lot of things to talk to him about, a lot of other issues to deal with. I did want to tell this quick story. It's a golf story. It happened to me yesterday. I was playing at Ironwood, just ran out and wanted to play a few holes, got to the third hole, hit a great drive, couldn't find the ball. Couldn't find it. The cart lady came up, and we were talking, and she goes, I said, can you look at it? Nope, can't find it. So she left. I went, still looked for my ball, still couldn't find it. All of a sudden, I found it. It was in a little hole that would have been dug by an animal of some kind. I don't know what it was. But you can lift it and replace from that. It's still in the rough, but I had to drop it. Then I hit a 7-iron, and I say, that's good. It's real good. It's getting better. Goes in for a 2 on the hole. I let out a roar, and I look around. There is not a person, a soul, within a mile of me. So I'm like, I can't nobody can go, hey, I saw that from way over here. That's unbelievable. Now, so does it count? That's my question. I don't know if it does or not. Then I put it on Twitter, and I'm really good with math, but I'm really bad with golf holes. Like if I have to count up which hole it was. Okay, that's 7. Well, I accidentally tweeted that it was on number 4 and it was on number 3, and everybody's like, oh, par 4 is a par 3. What are you talking about? People start ripping me for making a 2. Can't win. You just can't win. All right, it is time to start the show with some news, and we're going to. This is a segment we're going to start doing at the beginning of the show. I've got a name for it. I don't know if it's a good name. I think we may be closing in on a sponsor for it, and we'll see if we do or not. I'm hoping we do. But don't hesitate to call if you want to be a sponsor. We got a lot of possibilities, a lot of things that you can do. But I'm calling it the Fearsome Fivesome, and these are the 5 things I'm thinking about in terms of the biggest stories that are going on right now. And the number one continues to be the NIL. I know we get tired of talking about it. We get, and people are getting tired, and people just want to talk. But it's unfortunate, but it's the story, and it continues to be the story. This latest thing, and again, I say latest thing. It could have changed 5 minutes ago again, but the latest thing was that Greg Sankey and the commissioner of the Pac-12 were going to lobby Congress to try to get them to help out in terms of legislating some of these rules. There's apparently a rule that's about to go through, about to get passed by the NCAA to punish those people who, because here's the thing, it is a wild, wild west. I agree with you 100%. You know what happened in the wild, wild west? Bad guys showed up, or people that did not do things the right way. And that's why you had the wild, wild west. It wasn't because everybody was just getting money. Well, in this case, boosters have been tampering. There's no doubt it's been going on, okay? They've been tampering. They've been offering money, which they can't do to recruits before they ever think about coming. They're trying to tempt recruits with deals. The wide receiver at Boston College, Zay Flowers, this is amazing. He told of Pete Thamel 2 stories of being offered $600,000 and $300,000 to leave Boston College and come to their school. This is by boosters. And now they're trying to make a move. At least the different commissioners and the NCAA is trying to get their arms around something that they let go in the first place, that they let slip away when they had a chance to do something about it. But they're trying to get a handle on it. And the problem is there's only so much you can do. But what they may end up doing, let me tell you what. There may be some, now, and this is just going to be lawsuits, I know, but there are some boosters that are going to be disassociated, and there are going to be schools that get financially penalized. Look, what are they going to give the SEC, every SEC team this year, $54 million, something like it, whatever it is. I mean, it's just numbers, and I'm not good at numbers, as I've told you. So you give them $54 million, maybe you give them 48 next year. Because they had boosters that were, and they aren't even going rogue. And that's the thing. All these boosters are under, I'm not saying all, of course. There's a lot that aren't, and it's just like everything. They're good, they're bad. There are people who violate rules. But it was almost like, hey, we can start paying players now? You're saying it's legal and we can do it? We've been doing it for years, but now we can do it? And, I mean, you don't think players have been driving around in nice cars ever? The best players always drive nice cars. I'm sorry, they do. You think that's a coincidence? No. But so some of these boosters were like, hey, we can just start. We're in charge. We're the general managers of our team now. We can go get guys. Hey, let me call this guy from Pitt and see if he wants to get in the transfer portal, and I'll guarantee him that we can pay him $1 million over his career, the last 2 years of his career. Let me do that. This is what's going on. It's still not allowed. But I think some of the boosters go, we can do anything now. Well, they can't. And the NCAA and the conference commissioners are at least trying to do something to solve this problem. You're not going to solve it. You're never going to do that. It's going to be a problem for a long time. Evan, can you put the time up? Because I'm just wait till I show you how I broke my phone. It's a new one on you, okay? I've never seen anything quite like this. All right. The second thing was Emory Jones transferring to Arizona State, and Robbie and I were talking about this yesterday. You know, it makes me want to stay up and watch some Arizona State games. I'm more curious than I am. I hope he does well. I don't hold anything against him. He's a good kid. But if he does really well, then you start wondering why Dan Mullen couldn't get something better out of him. My feeling is he's going up against easier defenses. There's no question about it. But he also got a $75,000 marketing deal. Now, again, this goes back to the same old thing. Was that in place before he went to the portal? I mean, you know, this is going to be – it's almost like going to take an impossible – like a workforce like Billy Napier has now to combat this and to fight it. I don't know if they will or not, but good luck to Emory out there. The next thing up, Florida at Mississippi State, is huge. Right now, if you look at what I think D1 baseball has Florida at, they had them as a 3 seed in Coral Gables. They don't want to go down there, but they just want to get in the tournament. But look, there's a lot of games you have to win. Florida has to win 1 game. They'd love to win 2. This is not a great This is not the team that won the national title last year. They're good enough, and again, it's the same thing with this Florida team. They're good enough to beat anybody, bad enough to lose to anybody. And we'll see how that goes. Next up, softball. Final regular season games this weekend, and then Florida, of course, will host the SEC tournament. It's going to be interesting because they could be anywhere from, I think, a 5 to an 8 seed in the tournament, and it'll have a lot to do with what time they play. I talked to Tim Walton the other day about the 10,000 or the 1,000 wins. If it was 10,000, that'd be a hell of a story. But 1,000 wins, and we had a great conversation about it. And we were talking about the team, too. And look, I think he was saying that they were starting 7 freshmen or sophomore that night against FSU. And, of course, lost the game 2-1 and a walk-off homer. Second time they've lost FSU, in a game that they could have won. But they just aren't getting the clutch hits. And maybe later, when the players get a little bit older, they start getting clutch hits. He's got an incredible couple of players coming in over the next 2 years as well. Including Jason Williams' daughter, who's apparently awesome. I mean, again, I don't know that. I don't follow it. But he was joking about some of the messages he got. He said he goes to breakfast every once in a while with Jeremy Foley, who hired him, of course, at Florida. And the next day, Jeremy texted him and said, "Hey, Dusty Baker just won his 2,000th. You've got a long way to go. You need to up your game." And he laughed. But I love Tim. He's a great guy, one of the best. And finally, on the Fearsome Fivesome, is that name any good or not? I don't know. We'll have to work on the name. That's the name I have today. We may change it. It could. Well, depends on who the sponsor is. It could be alliteration with that. Finally, on this segment of the show, Anthony Richardson was placed as a top 10 pick by Todd McShay. Does that mean anything? 0.0. 0.0. It doesn't mean anything where mock drafts put Anthony Richardson now, and it does mean a little bit when he's done, but he's still got to do it. I don't know. I don't know whether Anthony, and this is like going into last year, I believed in Emory Jones. But again, I wasn't watching practice. I just thought I'd seen enough of him in games. I heard what Dan Mullen was saying, and you could tell Dan Mullen wasn't sure if it was going to work. But I just felt like it was going to work. It was going to work. And I was way wrong. It didn't work. With Anthony Richardson, look, the sample size is not that big for Anthony Richardson. Incredible athlete. And he may get drafted. Don't I bang the thing? He may get drafted based on ability alone and probably 20 spots higher than he normally would. If he ends up being a great quarterback, 20 spots higher isn't going to happen because he'd probably be in the top 10. But he's such a great athlete. But there's not a great sample. Here's the sample size. Look great against FAU. Look great against USF. Whoop-de-doo. Look great against a bad LSU defense. Look terrible against one of the greatest defenses to ever play. And other than that, not much. That's his sample size. It's not, did okay against FSU. But I don't know how good he'll be. I hope he's going to be good. I think everybody hopes he's going to be good. I think the media can't wait to see if he's going to be good. But the thing is, we don't know. There is no guarantee. I mean, I believe in Billy Napier. I think he'll run the plays that work best for him, and who knows how much they'll be able to run him, and they'll feel confident, but we'll see. All right, so that is the Fearsome Fivesome. We'll be back. We'll take a break. Come back here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios, and we will have Cole Cubelic on the Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line right after this break here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Another Duly Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Okay, welcome back to Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Boy, I'm getting where it's just coming to me. We go now to the Zoom line sponsored by Big Mills Cheesesteaks for our good friend Cole Cubelic, who, of course, works for the SEC Network and ESPN and also has a great radio show with the great Greg McElroy. I can't get my headphones to work. There we go. Out there on WJOX. How you doing, Cole?
I'm doing great, Pat. Just a little jealous of your studio there. It's a pretty sweet setup you got.
Well, I don't have my jerseys. If you notice, these are all signed by Steve Spurrier, so it's not my jerseys. But hey, I'm just curious what the biggest topic of conversation, because every national radio show I listen to that talks college is talking only about NIL. It's like people are ignoring that there is a college football season coming up there. Is it the same way for you guys out there?
Unfortunately, it's been a lot of it, and we try to venture away from it. We try to get into other things. You had week one lines came out. You got a lot of different stuff happening through the portal with some of the coaching changes. We try to focus in on that with some of the difference in scheme and whatnot, how that's going to look. And then, too, I've taken that topic, NIL, whatever it is, along with the portal. We spend some time trying to look to the future a little bit and just think about where this thing's going. I think that's a question we all have. We all wonder, where are we going to land? What's it going to look like the next time we get to a moment in time in college football and we feel like the dust has settled and sort of this is what it's going to be for 5 years, 10 years? And when I say that, I mean realignment, I mean rules, NIL, all those things. So, some of those projections we've spent some time talking about as well. So we can't just sit there and get bogged down with NIL for 3 hours. We could, obviously, because there's so much involved in it, and it's so different, it's so new, and it's changing every day. Along with the portal, I mean, we could have a damn portal segment every day if we wanted to, and just sit there and read the list of kids that are coming in and out of the portal. So we try to update people on that, and then we get into some conversations, but we can't let that dominate, because I think people in general are kind of worn out on it already, and then you still have legitimate news on it every single day.
I know, and I mean, I've almost gotten to the point where a story happens and it says breaking. I go, is this a joke or not? I'm trying to figure out whether somebody's pranking somebody or are they really going to now retroactively punish boosters who try to tamper with players. And that's the thing that bothers me the most is that, okay, there's been boosters, and they're at every school, who have said, hell, there's no rules now. We can do whatever we want. I'm going to be the general manager of this football team.
Yeah, I think you've seen that a couple of places. Obviously, the collectives have had their say in how things are going to be managed and things are going to operate moving forward. It's just such a different time. And, you hear the phrase wild, wild west thrown around. And I do think that there's some truth to that, just as far as, who has access to the players. And I think, too, that, one thing that this has led to, Pat, is a lot of finger pointing from a lot of different sides of this. Let's take Jordan Addison in that deal. Kid caught 100 balls, almost 1,600 yards, 17 touchdown receptions last year. Won the Biletnikoff. That's a major college football award that kid took home. He's going to play another year of college football. He's coming back. I don't know if he was tampered with or not. I have no idea. I think the safe assumption is to say, oh, yeah, somebody was recruiting him or tampering with him to come to wherever he ends up. But are we really discounting the ability of a 20, 21-year-old to think for themselves and say, Pitt, Southern California, plus X amount of thousand or $1 million with a free house, with a quarterback that we know is proven. We know where you're going to get the most eyeballs between those two schools. So, and I saw Scott Satterfield coming out and talking about the kid that he has going to Alabama, saying, he goes in the portal and he knows where he's ending up the next day. I think we discount maybe the intelligence of football players sometimes. And listen, I was one day. I was a college football player. I wasn't very smart. But, I think from a street smarts perspective, we all had a pretty good idea what was going on and how things operated. So for us to kind of sit back and think that a lot of these kids couldn't sort of figure some of that stuff out on their own, I think that's irresponsible, first and foremost. So anytime a kid leaves and goes to a program more rich in tradition, or that has more assets, has the ability to do more from a fan base perspective, we can't just say, oh, he was tampered with every single time, because that's just – I know if I was playing football at Tennessee Chattanooga and Florida called me, well, by God, I'm probably going to go. It's a chance to go play in the SEC, play for Florida. They got national titles. They got Heismans. Why would I not go do that? So it's easy to just say, tampering. But I think we should sort of just pause, pump the brakes for a second, and at least look at the fact that might not have been what it was. Because my understanding, the folks that I have talked to, is that the way that a lot of this is working, and once again, NCAA invited this in. They allowed this. They thought this was going to be okay. My understanding is that there are a lot of agents that are going to players, and they're saying, I think I have X amount available in NIL for you, and I have 2 or 3 schools that would be possible, maybe in this conference, but you got to hit the portal before we can talk about any of that. And the kids hit the portal because all they see is the dollar signs or maybe a bigger, better opportunity at Texas, Ohio State, Tennessee, Southern Cal, whatever, and they're willing to risk it and take that chance. And I think one problem, Pat, we haven't heard a lot of stories yet. Like, we haven't learned the lesson of player goes in portal and head coach says, good riddance. We don't want you back. You're not coming back. Because I've heard a lot of stories about the kids asking to come back, but the coaches can't let that come out. That's going to hurt them in recruiting. That's going to hurt them as far as the rest of their roster. So it's just so complicated. You see right there, we just spent 10 minutes on it, and we didn't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, no, and I agree, but you can, like you said, we could spend 2 hours talking about it. Let us talk some football, and obviously in your state, Alabama's going to be probably preseason number 1, and I'm a big believer that if you've got a starting quarterback back, especially the Heisman winner, people are maybe going to rate you a little bit higher than you should. Now, I'm not sure Alabama's the best team in the country, but what do you think about? Who would you vote number 1 in the preseason? Although, do you have to wait for the portal to to close before you do.
Hey, I mean, that's going to make a big difference. I mean, I think if you're talking, let's just say you're talking about Southern Cal, I don't really think receivers a big need for them. Mm-hmm. But if they got a Jordan Addison, I might look at them more as a 10-11 win team than an 8 or 9 win team. I mean, that kid's pretty special, and he changes a lot of who you are. And there will be other players that hit the portal by the time the season rolls around that we probably feel that way about. And that could be by addition or subtraction. Like we might think Pitt could really challenge Clemson again. Well, what if they don't have Jordan Addison? Can they push for the ACC? I don't know. That would change my opinion. So if I'm voting today and I had a vote, I don't. Ohio State would be my number one team going into the season. I think they have an all-world tailback. I think they have multiple all-world receivers. And I think they have arguably neck-and-neck best quarterback in college football. Nothing against Bryce Young. He deserves to be mentioned as the best because he won the Heisman and he's returning. But C.J. Stroud's pretty special too. And I'm a little worried about the defense, but I haven't seen many times that defense actually won a championship in the last few years. You could say Georgia's, but Georgia put up a lot of offense in that game against Alabama as well. So, and I don't think whether or not Ohio State's defense improves or not, we're not going to talk about that being a generational defense like we did Georgia's last year. So that's not too much of a factor in me believing what they're going to be. And I don't think there'll be another defense anywhere close to that in college football this year. So it doesn't really matter that much. I think Ohio State's got the most powerful offense, and I think they have the biggest collection of elite players. The offensive line should be solid. I don't know if they'll be great. And they got a couple of defensive linemen, edge defenders that I think are kind of coming on that could help. So Ohio State would be the number one team in the nation for me right now.
You played the offensive line, and when people, I know that even in the media, when people ask about whether an offensive line is going to be any good or not, a lot of it has to do with, do I recognize their names? Have I heard of them? Are they coming back? And because we don't spend time studying tape of offensive linemen. You do that. And I want to ask you about Florida's offensive line, which on the surface would appear to be better because they got a lot of guys coming back. But again, those guys were not very good last year in run blocking. They were good in pass protection at times. But what do you think about that offensive line?
Well, I'll just say a little bit on last year's deal. So much of it also, Pat, depends on sort of what you are. Mm-hmm. And when I think about when Alabama first started going up tempo and RPO, and then there were a couple of games earlier in the season when they kind of needed to throttle down, run the ball, and close the game out, and they couldn't really do it. That we got into those press conferences after the game, and people were just hammering Coach Saban with questions about the offensive line, and his response was, "Listen, if we're not going to go out and practice every day and work on being able to push people around, and we're not going to have that as a part of our DNA and what we do, don't expect us to be able to come out here in the game and just all of a sudden be able to do that because we're asking guys to do that. It doesn't work that way." And that wasn't what Alabama was as a team that year. Mm-hmm. So it's hard because Florida's offense was so RPO-based, so based in the quick game, that you could sit there and say, yeah, they're not a good run-blocking group. Well, they also weren't set up to be a very good run-blocking group. It's not like they were getting in single back 12 formation and run inside zone to Dameon Pierce 35 times a game. If you were doing that, then you'd have a pretty good idea how it operated, how it worked, and, that it would be in your makeup a little bit more. This team, this coaching staff, they will force it into their makeup because they have to, because it's what they do. Now, doesn't mean they won't take their shots down the field. Doesn't mean that you won't see some heavy play action stuff. You'll get some bootlegs. You'll get some quarterback runs, some different read plays. But, Billy and those guys are going to run the ball, and they're going to be under center, and they're going to get in a three-point stance. They're going to run stretch play. They're going to run inside zone, power counter. And they will try to do that in a north and south manner because it sets up everything else that they want to do. So that being said, it's hard to get a really good read on exactly what Florida has coming back. There's not a ton of guys that we've seen play a ton of football, especially not at a high level. I love Osiris Torrance that they brought from Louisiana. Yeah. He was one of my favorite group of 5 offensive linemen to watch last year. We've seen a little bit of Ethan White, got his weight down, played some good ball at times last year. But I got to see exactly what it's going to be first and who's going to be out there attempting to do it. This is going to be so new for them. And honestly, part of it, they might be excited about it. I don't. You know, if I watch a group that like Auburn's offensive line is a perfect example. You know, you got Nick Brahms is a 3-year starter at center. He's coming back. Brandon Council, Akron transfer, started 2 years. He's coming back. You got Austin Troxel, a tackle, who's coming back. He's played some football for all. He's played a lot of reps. But those guys didn't play great ball last year. I don't just think they're going to be great this year. So much of it is growth. So much of it is how your coaching staff is helping you, what you have the capabilities to do. That group they'll be much more balanced with what is being offered to them and what's going to help around them. And when I mean that, I mean the play action stuff, the bootlegs, the rollouts, the sprint outs, some of the quick protection game, the screen game. All of that is going to help how they operate on an every down basis. And they didn't get a lot of that last year or the last 2 or 3 years. So yeah. I think over the next 2 or 3 years, you'll see a very big leap in what Florida's offensive line is. But I think it's a giant question mark going into this year.
All right, before we let you go, Cole, we have this game we play called Yes, No Way, or Maybe You Answer 3 Questions. It is brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you go into Big Mills Cheesesteaks and mention Another Dooley Noted Podcast, free French fries with your order. Hard to beat that, right? Let's start off with number 1. Georgia had 15 players drafted. They still make the playoff this year.
No, I don't think that they do. As we mentioned before, that defense was generational last year, and you're still going to have probably a first-round defensive lineman, a first-round corner that are going to be back, maybe even a first-round edge defender on that defense. But it's the interior of that group that was so good, so dominant, and so deep last year with multiple guys being able to help out. I don't see it happening. I don't think that they're going to get challenged too much in the East. I don't think Kentucky takes a big dip. You know, Tennessee's going to be dangerous. Florida's a big question mark. But with what Florida has at quarterback and the system that they're going to run, I'll just say this. They're going to be dangerous. They're going to get a couple teams or a team or two they're not supposed to just because of that. I don't know what to expect from Missouri and Vanderbilt. I don't think very much. But I just don't think that – I think that there are other teams that could be in the way that they're going to run into, mainly Alabama, and I don't think Georgia gets back to the playoff this year, no.
All right, yes, no way, or maybe number 2, Brian Harsin is a coach at Auburn in 2023.
I'll say yes. I think there are some folks inside the building at Auburn, behind the scenes at Auburn, that sort of learned their lesson this last little go-around of whatever anybody wants to call that. The investigation, whatever, that, you know, it might be time to just let some things play out. We're doing more harm than we're doing good. Now, every time I say that, I feel like it comes full circle and somebody finds a way to do more harm and run their mouth or try to make a move. But when you look at that roster, you know, I mentioned that offensive line, they're not going to be dominant, Pat, but they have some veterans. And you got a guy like Tank Bigsby, Jarquez Hunter in the backfield. You're going to have a quarterback that's played legitimate snaps in the SEC, be it TJ Finley or Zach Calzada. And if Robbie Ashford's still there, I think he can help him. I think he can be a guy that has a package and does some different things. You've got Colby Wooden back on the defensive line, Derek Hall, Iku Leota on the defensive line. That group's going to be a strong suit of the team. So I think the O-line, D-line could be pretty good. You're going to have a veteran quarterback, playmaker at running back. Secondary is going to be fine. I'm a little worried about linebacker. They just got to find some guys that can catch the ball. The thing about it is all of these teams in the middle of the SEC, we don't know if they're going to go up or down.
Right.
And, you know, I've got confidence that Alabama stays the same or gets better. I think Arkansas gets the same or gets a little bit better. I think Georgia will be maybe not quite the same, but they're not really going to take a dive. Everybody else, I think, could go either way. And I mean, Kentucky would be a team that I have a little more confidence in, but, you know, they lose Wan'Dale Robinson. They lose some guys up front on defense. They lose Luke Fortner and Darren Kennard on that offensive line. So they have some big question marks, and their offensive coordinator's got to be replaced again. So somebody's going to take advantage of this and get an extra win or two. Auburn's got the first 5 games at home. That's massive. Penn State's one of those games. LSU are one of those games. I don't know what to expect from LSU this year. They got some big boy talent in certain spots. I mean, you got a quarterback in Jaden Daniels that lit up the Pac-12. Mason Smith's a big-time defensive lineman. BJ Lozari, Ali Gay off the edge. Those are really good players. Keyshawn Boutte could be the best receiver in the league. But we don't know anything about their offensive line. And it's weird to say it, but their secondary looks super questionable. So I think Brian Harsin and his staff are going to coach this group up enough to be able to keep him around for another year.
All right, and finally, Nick Saban gets so fed up with NIL and transfer portal that if he wins another title, he announces his retirement.
I'll give you a maybe, and I'll even say that I don't think it has anything to do with another title. I think it's just a maybe this year in general, because I think there are so many things that are frustrating him that he has no control over. And that's, you guys are seeing that right now with Billy and kind of how he operates. It's all about, how you control things and having everybody in line with how everybody wants to build the program. And Billy does an excellent job with culture and having everybody on the same page and everybody pulling in the same direction. Nick's the same way. They're cut from the same cloth. And so I just think that there's so many things that are out of his hands and out of his control, and that he sort of can't even really forecast. A lot of times, you're going to have problems with your team in college football. Guys getting in trouble, guys getting injured, guys leaving. But now there's so many things you can't even forecast. I mean, you could have a recruit committed for 11 months, and here comes collective across the country that offers a ridiculous amount of money, and he's gone. Yeah. Or here comes a kid that started for you for 2 years. I mean, and he's benefited from it. Look, Henry To'oTo'o. Jermaine Burton just won a national championship. He's going to Alabama. We don't think they're going to be kids. At some point in time, we're going to get a big-name player from Alabama that's going to say, I just don't want to be here anymore. I want to go play over there. I want to go something else. I want to go be with this guy or that coach or whatever. It's going to happen. So I think there's so many things that are out of his control that he can't even get a decent forecast for, that I'll give you a maybe at the end of this year. He decides enough is enough and he walks away.
Great stuff, Cole, as always, and I really appreciate you coming on. It's always great to talk to you anytime. We got to get you down here and get you into Spurrier's. I know the owner, so I'll be able to help you out there. Okay?
I've heard the name, so maybe that's got some pull in there somehow, some way.
Here we go. Cole, thanks so much.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
All right, Cole Cubelic, of course, SEC Network, ESPN. He's everywhere. He's on WJOX with Greg McElroy as well. We do need to take a break. That is interesting. I sense that from Saban too, that they're like we are hearing coaches complain, and the interesting thing to me really is like Dabo complaining about it. I don't want to get involved in the transfer portal, and all this stuff is crazy. But if, let's say, Saban retires after this year, well, the obvious choice is to go get Dabo, who played there. But guess what? They may say, well, you don't want to do the transfer portal or the NIL. Then no, we don't want you. We want a coach who's embracing all these things. So at any rate, we'll talk. We got to get to all of our great stuff that we love doing. Hand Law, Three Things, Leonardo's the Millhopper Quick Picks, Adam's Ribco to Go Gator of the Week, Hesser and Kipke Games of the Week, this, that, and the other. All that coming up. We got a lot to get to here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Another Duly Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Okay, welcome back to Another Duly Noted Podcast, presented, of course, by Titan, as always, by Titan MRI, from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Thanks so much to Cole Cubelic for coming on. I talked about this a while back. We were going to have him on a couple weeks ago, and a teammate of his, Jeff Klein, died, a quarterback on that team. And certainly it was a really tragic the way he went to. He was diagnosed and died, some kind of stomach cancer, I think it was. Terrible, terrible story. But at any rate, we appreciate him coming on today. We love getting his take on everything. All right, let us get to the hand law. 3 things. How about that? 3 things, as always, is presented by Hand Law, a Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about Hand Law by visiting its website at www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. And we appreciate Chris Hand and all the great stuff he sponsors, and he'll be sponsoring Robbie Andrews' appearance on Monday. Who'll be on the show, so that'll be cool. So there. Number 1, one sport we don't talk a ton about here because we're football, basketball oriented, a little baseball, and we talked a little bit last week about how we kind of ignore lacrosse, but men's and women's golf, I love men's and women's golf. I love J.C. Deacon. I love Emily. Emily's up for Glazer's up for National Coach of the Year. But it was kind of fun to watch the selection show. Florida going to Palm Beach Gardens May 16th. They will start, and that is they're a 2 seed. They're behind the number 1 seed Vanderbilt. The women actually start Monday in Albuquerque. So good luck to them because, look, it's hard to win in golf. I mean, great teams have lost in golf. That DeMarco Dudley Hart team, just couldn't get over the hump. Mickelson got him one year. I think he shot 64, and their team won it. But at any rate, we all know how easy it is to have a bad day in golf or a bad week or a bad tournament. It's very easy. Everybody has them. That's what made Tigers so phenomenal. But everybody has them, and certainly in college you're going to have them. So it's hard. I did a whole column on this when Buddy Alexander was here, just how hard it is to know that all of your guys are going to go out there and play at a high level. It's just hard to do. But good luck to them. And certainly the men and the women both are having great years so far. Really, really been exciting. They both lost in the finals of the SEC. So, I mean, maybe get a notch above. All right, number 2 on Hand Law. Three things presented by Hand Law. I did not know that the Mets last night rallied from down 6 for 7th in the 9th inning to beat the Phillies, till I got a text this morning from Ken Hesser, of course, our sponsor for Hesser and Kipke, who's a big Phillies fan, and he wants me to put Philadelphia in the bottom 3. And I said, nah, the record is still better than 9 teams. Okay? So, no, you can't get in the bottom 3, but I know how you feel. I know how you feel. Because certainly when the Braves, I can't remember the last 6-run lead they blew, but when you lose a game like that, you feel like you got the worst team in the world. Worst team in the world. Worst manager, worst everything. But that's a tough one for the old Phils. All right, and then number 3 on hand law, 3 things. Sergio Garcia playing golf yesterday, angry at a ruling he got, and by the way, made par on the hole. Angry at a ruling he got, said several times, I can't wait to get out of this tour. I can't wait to get away from this tour, which sounds to me, like and everybody, like he's going to go play in that Saudi tour. And, of course, that would be a big get for the Saudi tour, but not the greatest get. I mean, where is he ranked? I don't know where he's ranked, to be honest with you. He's not that relevant, but he's still famous. It's kind of like Ricky Fowler. You get Ricky Fowler, boy, you're bringing a lot of eyes. But you know what you're not bringing? One of the great golfers of all time. You certainly aren't. How many tournaments has he won in his life? I like Ricky Fowler. And I'm not a big fan of Sergio. He did call me out one time at a press conference. It was kind of embarrassing. Not embarrassing. I got over it. So anyway, by the way, on this tour he's talking about, he's so disgusted with he's won $54 million so far. He may be able to win more on this Saudi Arabian tour. But look, when Sergio says stuff, it's the way he feels at that moment in time. He's got no filter. He's the guy who said, maybe I can't win the Masters. I'm not good enough. He said that. And then he won the Masters a few years later. Just don't worry about anything he says. But to be honest with you, whoever they have in the majors is all I really care about in golf. But I don't think this is going to be a big problem. At any rate, that is our hand law of 3 things. Okay, our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. Several of you did win or did qualify last week. I did send the package to Chris, who won our contest last time. I went out in the mail today, and you should get it in a couple days. It was pretty cool what I put in there, too, by the way. So there was several of you picked FSU, and I don't blame you. FSU's really good. To me, it was a toss-up game, and it ended up being bottom of the 7th inning home run to beat Florida 2-1. So I'm going to give you 2 games that are on Sunday. I'm going to give you Sunday games. I know everybody likes to have a little time to listen to the podcast before they make their picks. So here's what I'm giving you. I'm giving you Miami at Philly Sunday. That'll be a big game. If Embiid's back, that's going to be interesting to watch. Again, it's at Philly. That's Miami at Philly. This is NBA. And then in the NHL, Toronto at Tampa Bay. So how versatile am I? I'm giving you an NBA playoff game and an NHL playoff game. If you get them both right, you qualify. Okay. By the way, that series is tied at 1. So it's a good one. That is our Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Picks. We thank Kyle Cohen not only for being a guest, but a sponsor of the Bob Dooley Invitational and pretty much everything else in town. There's some people in this town that just believe in getting stuff out. Why do I keep hitting this thing? All right. It is time for our Hesser, and speaking of Ken Hesser, our Hesser and Kipke Games of the Weekend. It is brought to you by, of course, Hesser and Kipke, a law firm based in Hale Plantation, specializing in employment, workers' comp, and family law. Visit their website at www.hklawfl.com or call Ken and Jennifer at 352-339-9920. We appreciate all of our sponsors, especially our double sponsors, people who are sponsoring more than one thing. All right, so our games of the weekend. First of all, let's start with the big one, I guess. And I didn't even mention it because I didn't even know it was coming up. The Kentucky Derby is Saturday, right? I think it is. Yes, it's Saturday. I don't know who the Horses are, I don't know. The fastest one will win is my prediction. The one who finishes first. But just so you know, the Derby starts at 6:57 because everything leading up to it, it's kind of fun to watch for about 5 minutes, and then you go, I don't need any more analysis. I don't need any more profiles of I don't need any more conversations about what happened last year. They got, what's his, Baffert banned or whatever. I don't even remember the whole story. As you can tell, not a big horse guy. Nothing against horse racing, nothing against the horses. Just not that big of a fan. I'll watch the Derby, though, at 6:57. I ain't turning it on at 6:56. All right, so we got that. Lacrosse, which we mentioned earlier, kind of gets ignored sometimes, playing for the AAC Tournament Championship. I think it would be their 9th in a row if they win it. They're playing against Vanderbilt. Is Florida going to play Vanderbilt for the championship of all women's sports? Apparently they are. That is Saturday at noon. I've seen noon and 11 both. So it may be 11 their time, noon their time. Just if you can find it, watch it. The baseball team playing 3 games we just mentioned against Mississippi State, 8 o'clock on the SEC network tonight, Friday night, 7:30 on the U on Saturday, and then 2 o'clock on ESPN Plus only, if you get that. So, boy, if you could get 2 out of 3 here, I'd start to believe you're going to get in the tournament, and you may kind of play your way out of having to go down to Coral Gables, because I don't think Florida wants to go to Coral Gables, even though they feel comfortable there. Obviously, they win all the time down there, but and that way you get more people to see you. But I still don't think they want to go down there. Hostile crowd. All right, softball finishing up its season. They play at 5 and 7:30 today, 12 and 12:30. Well, that can't be right. 12 and something Saturday. They're playing Florida Gulf Coast and Mercer. I mean, this is what the way the FCC allows you to have this one bye week, but you have to play games. It's kind of silly, especially to have it at the end of the year. So you got that going on. But Lindsay Fico, I think it's Fico, is played at Florida. I should know her with the pronunciation of her name, but I don't remember her that well. But she's the head coach at Mercer, and she probably doesn't need me to be saying that she does. I don't remember her very well. Men's tennis, playing University of New Orleans in the start of the NCAA tournament today, 5 o'clock. I think I'm right about that. I've written these things down. The women play Saturday against United States of America. It's the University of South Alabama, actually, it's called, USA. So there. I think I got all that down. Okay. All right, that is our Hesser and Kipke games of the weekend. I see, you can tell here I was writing really small, trying to write things. So I think it's 2 p.m. for women's tennis Saturday. I think I wrote that down. Look, you guys can go and look it up if you want. If you don't, that's okay. But that is our Hesser and Kipke games of the weekend. A lot of stuff going on. I'm kind of fired up about this weekend. We're actually going to see the Dirty Knobs tonight, which is our friend Scott Carter from UF has some extra tickets, so we're going to go and to the High Dive and see Mike Campbell's band. I think Stan Lynch is playing drums, so that's 2/5 of the Heartbreakers right there. Could be cool. All right, one more thing to do, and that is one of our favorites. It's on the menu here, this, that, and the other. In fact, I saw the other day, I think I saw somebody was ordering that. They were putting it on Twitter. This, that, and the other is brought to you by Ballyhoo Grill. My man Bill Reichert had some fried gator tail out there that people were loving. They were loving. That was. I would give that hole the MVP. That was the hole that my wife and everybody they had a blast out there. They were actually announcing people coming up when they would go now on the tee. All right. It is brought to you by Ballyhoo Grill. It is brought to you by Dar Shakow Insurance. And, of course, appreciate them as well. And by Ironwood Golf Course, where I just made it 2 yesterday. And may go play again today. I've got golf fever really bad. You know why? Because I had to watch everybody play. I had to watch. This is like like a Lewis and Martin comedy bit. Who's on first? Okay. All right. So this, that, and the other is brought to you by those three great sponsors. We appreciate Ironwood, Ballyhoo, and Dar Shakow Insurance. This, when they announced there was going to be a USFL, I was so happy. Oh, my favorite thing, my favorite league ever to play in any sport was the USFL. I loved it. I loved covering it for 2 years, Jacksonville Bulls. In fact, I saved it so it would have been 85 when I bought it, and I saved it a Jacksonville Bulls game-worn jersey that I finally put it in the silent auction this year. I think hopefully it went for a lot. I know somebody bought it. So when it was announced, I was feeling all warm and fuzzy. USFL, and they kept the same nicknames and the same logo for the USFL, and I'm like, yeah, man, it's back. My favorite. All right. That is that then I started watching their games, and they stink. It's no fun to watch. They're not interesting. There's nobody in the stands, and except for the Birmingham games, because that's where they're playing. And it's like nobody. I finally heard like Scooby Wright was playing for one of the teams. Of course, who played for Arizona, was really good linebacker, and he was the only guy on the field that I knew who it was. It was a bunch of guys I've never heard of, never seen. So, look, the USFL proper was a bunch of guys who played in the NFL, went on to play in the NFL, or played in the NFL previous. They had Heisman winners. They had Herschel. Okay, that's all you need to say. This is just the product's not very good. And so the other is that they've made an announcement today that the first and third quarters will now have a running clock. They're trying to speed the game up. That tells you your product's not very good. If you're trying to speed it up, like a spring game or something, so you can get people off the field and get them home. That's not a good sign for the USFL. I don't know if it's going to last, but first and third quarters, running clock. Interesting. Very interesting. So that's this, that, and the other for today. And, of course, like I mentioned earlier, Monday, Robbie will be in here, and it'll be great to get his perspective on a lot of this stuff we've been talking about. Well, maybe we'll just talk football Monday. How about that? We will, because we were going to do that on the Thursday radio show. And then, I think I spit on myself, but then all of a sudden it got into a big NIL discussion. Something happened. We had to talk about it. Everybody kept calling and saying, oh, this, that, and the other, but anyway, maybe we'll just talk football. I promise. That'll be Monday, and then Friday, Coach Spurrier will be in. So we look forward to seeing him and talking about the award, all these awards and all those Hall of Fames he keeps going into. Well, that is going to do it for another edition of the Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. And we'll have let you know about some schedule changes there. I'm going to miss one day down the road, okay? I got to take some time off. We all do for a lot of reasons. And I know Evan wants me to take a day off too. Yeah, I can tell. I can tell you do. But I do appreciate him, as always. The great Evan Almighty. I used to call him Evan Almighty. Yeah. And we'll be back on Friday. Yeah, Monday. What day is today? Okay, we'll be back on Monday. Until then, I am Pat Dooley saying I'm deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.